religious, the crooked staff of the augur, or examining entrails wearing the conical cap of the haruspex are common, but are not necessarily tages. Winged figures representing divinity are also common, especially on funerary urns from Tarquinia, but whether any depict tages is questionable. Assuming that a certain percentage of these representations are, in fact, tages, there appears to be no standard way to depict them. Art historians have inserted tages freely among them, but entirely in a speculative fashion. In addition to the labeled scene on the bronze mirror ascribed above, which must have been repeated many times without labels, a type of scene engraved on 4th century BC gemstones, once set in seal rings, appears to describe the tages myth. A bearded figure, Tarchon, bends over as though listening at the head or head and torso of another beardless figure, embedded in or arising from the ground. According to legend, tages appeared at plow time and taught Etruscans divination. He was born directly from a freshly plowed plot, or is the grandson of Jove. Cicero reports the myth in this way. They tell us that one day, as the land was being plowed in the territory of Tarquinii, and a deeper furrow than usual was made, suddenly tages sprang out of it and addressed the plowman. Tages, as it is recorded in the work of the Etrurians, Lepri Etruscan, possessed the visage of a child with the prudence of a sage. When the plowman was surprised at seeing him, and in his astonishment made a great outcry, a number of people assembled around him, and before long all the Etrurians came together at the spot. Tages then discoursed in the presence of an immense crowd, who noted his speech and committed it to writing. The information they derived from this tages was the foundation of the science of the soothsayers, the Haruspicinii Disciplina, and was subsequently improved by the accession of many new facts, all of which confirmed the same principles. We received this record from them. This record is preserved in their sacred books, and from it the augurial discipline is deduced. In Ovid's version, Tyrannus Arator, a Tyrrhenian plowman, observed a clod turn into a man and began to speak of things destined to happen, and how the Etruscan people could discover the future. Ovid, as a poet primarily interested in telling a good story, would have the less historically credible view. Tages was a founding prophet of Etruscan religion who is known from reports by Latin authors of the late Roman Republic and Roman Empire. He revealed a cosmic view of divinity and correct methods of ascertaining divine will concerning events of public interest. Divination was undertaken in Roman society by priestly officials called haruspices. Political officials, also such as the augurs, were constituted with some responsibilities for divination. While the religion flourished, these priests accompanied public officials, including generals in the field, and were consulted on everything of interest to the Senate and people of Rome. The religious texts recording to the revelations of Tages and a few other prophets, mainly a female figure known as Vigoia, were called by the Romans the Etrusca Disciplina, at least as early as the late Republic. They were written in the Etruscan language despite their Latin titles. None presently survive. The last author claiming to have read elements of the Disciplina is the 6th century John the Lydian, writing at Constantinople. Thus, knowing of Tages comes mainly from what is said about him by the classical authors, which is a legendary and quasi-mythical view. As the Etruscan alphabet had no G, Tages is most likely to be a Latinization of an Etruscan word. The reverse of a 3rd BC bronze mirror from Tuscania depicts a youthful haruspex in a conical hat examining a liver. He is labeled Pavatarches. A second, older haruspex with a beard listens and is labeled Avitarchinus. Massimo Pallottino made the generally accepted suggestion that the first name is to be segmented Pavatarches and means the child Tarches. The second name is the son of Tarchon, where Tarchon is the legendary king of Tarquinia, location of Tages' revelation, and also one of the founders of the Etruscan League. So interesting about this is that these religious sites in Etruria, near Rome, this is the original version of what we would think of as the Bohemian Grove and the Midsummer Night's rituals in the Grove. Etruscan mythology. Etruscan religion and mythology mythology were partly incorporated into classical Roman culture, including the Roman pantheon. The Senate adopted key elements of their religion, which were perpetuated by haruspices and noble Roman families who claimed Etruscan descent long after the general population had forgotten the language. However, in the last years of the Roman Republic, the religion began to fall out of favor and was satirized by such notable public figures as Marcus Tullius Cicero. The Julio Claudians, especially Claudius, who claimed a remote Etruscan descent, maintained a knowledge of the language and religion for a short time longer, but this practice soon ceased. A number of canonical works in the Etruscan language survived until the middle of the first millennium AD, but were destroyed by the ravages of time, decree of the Roman Senate, and by fire. An Etruscan mural of Typhon from Tarquinia. The Etruscan system of belief was an immanent polytheism. All visible phenomena were considered to be manifestations of divine power. That power was embodied in deities who acted continually on the world, but could be dissuaded or persuaded by mortal men. Long after the assimilation of the Etruscans, Seneca the Younger said that the difference between the Romans and the Etruscans was that, whereas we believe lightning to be released as a result of the collision of clouds, they believe that the clouds collide so as to release lightning. For as they attribute all to deity, they are led to believe that not things have a meaning insofar as they occur, but rather that they occur because they must have a meaning. Spirits and deities. Around the moon, or muni, or tombs, where the man or mani, Latin, means the souls of the ancestors. In iconography after the 5th century BC, the deceased are shown traveling to the underworld. In several instances of Etruscan art, such as in the Francois tomb in Volci, the spirit of the dead is identified by the term Hinthiel, literally one who is underneath. A god was called an I, later A, which in the plural